Stories that time forgot.
The day lawmakers signed the death warrant for global financial stability, they didn't use weapons. They used a golden pen and an invisible 73-word amendment. That doomed the future of millions of families. The financial law that allowed the massive collapse of 2008. Imagine for a moment that you walk into a luxury casino in Las Vegas with your grandmother as life savings. But the casino owner assures you that if you lose the money at the roulette table, the government will refund every cent using your own neighbor's taxes. Sounds crazy, right? Well, that is exactly the reality that was legalized on November 12, 1999. That day, President Bill Clinton signed the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act in a ceremony filled with forced smiles in the Treasury Department atrium. Beside him, standing like a guard of honor, were Republican Senator Phil Gramm, Democratic Representative Jim Leach, and Treasury Secretary Robert Rubin. I want you to take a good look at that last name, Robert Rubin, a former high-ranking executive at the Union Bank of Switzerland and other power entities, whose presence there symbolized the ultimate fusion between the skyscrapers of Wall Street and the offices of Washington. Bill Clinton told the cameras that this law modernized the financial system for the 21st century. But what he omitted to tell you is that he had just detonated the most important containment wall in economic history, the Glass-Steagall Act of 1933. To understand the magnitude of the danger, you must know that this wall separated commercial banks, where you and I keep money to pay rent or tuition, from investment banks, which are dedicated to making risky bets in international markets. For 66 years, that law prohibited anyone from gambling with your savings in complex derivatives or high-risk mortgages. However, the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act eliminated that separation with an almost diabolical technical elegance. It didn't do it head-on. Instead, it declared protections obsolete through a hidden clause on page 412 of a bill about agriculture. Can you believe the fate of the world economy was decided in a document about crops and plows? The origin of the original protection, Glass-Steagall, was written with the blood and sweat of the Great Depression. In 1929, banks operated like hybrid monsters. They accepted retirees' money in the morning and gambled it on the New York Stock Exchange in the afternoon. When the market tanked on the fateful Black Tuesday, 11,000 banks failed and citizens discovered with horror that their savings had vanished. Congress at the time learned the lesson and radically separated banking functions. You were either a safe bank or a gambling house, but never both at once. For 6 decades, this rule brought unprecedented financial peace. There were no systemic crises, no massive bank runs. But in the 80s, the climate in New York began to change. The noise of the tickers and the scent of easy money awakened greed. Wall Street launched a relentless political lobbying campaign. They argued that American banks were at a disadvantage against European giants. Groups like the Financial Modernization Coalition spent over $200 million to convince politicians. They funded studies claiming old laws were hurdles. Between 1990 and 1999, bank executives pumped $48 million into political campaigns. They were buying the right to risk your money. The point of no return occurred in 1998 when a $70 billion merger was announced to create Citigroup. Robert Rubin, before leaving his post at the Treasury, pressured Bill Clinton, asserting that if they didn't allow the merger, the system would collapse. The Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act turned out to be a regulatory Frankenstein. It was 700 pages long, drafted largely by the bank's own lawyers. They promised a new Financial Services Oversight Council would watch over everything, but that body never received a budget or staff. In just 3 years, 87 commercial banks swallowed investment houses. J.P. Morgan Chase absorbed Bear Stearns. Bank of America took over Merrill Lynch, but the worst was happening in the basements. Banks began using citizens' deposits, protected by the FDIC as collateral to create massive debts. For every dollar you put in your account, they borrowed 5 or 10 more to buy junk mortgages. They were building a house of cards. When the real estate market began to shake in 2006, disaster was inevitable. Banks realized no one wanted to buy their debts. What did they do then? They used the money from their customers' checking accounts to try to save their investment divisions. It was the perfect robbery. In September 2008, the world held its breath when Lehman Brothers declared bankruptcy. The U.S. government had to choose between the financial Stone Age or bailing out the culprits with $700 billion. The irony is that today, as you listen to this, the situation isn't much different. Although an attempt was made with the Dodd-Frank Act, the 5 largest banks in the United States are much bigger and more powerful today than in 2008. In 2018, under the Donald Trump administration, the Crapo Act was passed, which once again weakened controls on medium-sized banks. Think of the noise of the markets and how a simple legal phrase can change your life without you even noticing. We are living in a structure of unimaginable complexity, where financial derivatives move at the speed of light through the international messaging system. Do you think banks should be forced to split into small entities again? Leave us your answer in the comments. Like and subscribe to discover more stories time forgot.